Hello everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a tutorial on not something Anthro. That's actually something I have to make this very clear right away. I might even change the title just a little bit for this one. But with Mother's Day coming up, I figured it would be a perfect opportunity to show a tradition that I've been keeping going for a couple of years now. Or at least since I've actually been confident in my art abilities. You know, back when I was terrible. Everyone had that time. But what I would do for Mother's Day is I would actually draw my mother a rose. Instead of going out and buying one or growing one, as some people I know actually did, I would just draw her one. And it was funny because the first one I made was traditionally made on a little thing of cardstock. And I cut it out and handed it to her. And of course, as mothers do, they absolutely love that stuff. And she hung it upside down in her room, as what you're supposed to do with roses is you hang them upside down so that the petals will stay on longer, if I remember that was the reason. So she treated it as though it was a real rose, and it stayed there for, oh geez, I think just until last year, where something happened to it and it snapped in half. I think she kept the stem hanging though. But that's me telling a story. Anyways, I'm gonna be here to kind of show you how to draw a rose and how to, at least how to draw one that'll look nice. And of course this is digitally done, but I'm not going to be showing you how to do this digitally. I'm going to be showing you how to draw it, so you can make this traditionally. And I would recommend doing that instead. If you have the ability to, draw this out on something that you can hand your mother. And trust me, it would be far better if you can manage that. So, the way you want to start this off is starting with the circle, as most things in the art world are to start with. And I'm going to drop the opacity on this just a little bit so you can see this better. But we're going to be starting with the petals of the rose. Now, the ones I always end up drawing aren't the ones that are really wide open and have the bit of a flowers, or the florist's flourish to it. Mine are the ones that are a little bit more closed to them. So what the shape they end up getting is a smaller circle above, then a slightly larger circle, and then of course this thing is going to be the base of it. So what it'll end up look like, and I'll do this on another layer so you can see it better, is it'll end up having kind of a vase shape to it. Now this one's a little bit extreme. I need to bring this side out just a little bit more. But that's kind of the overall shape that you're going to be getting with this. So if I get rid of that, and I kind of bring this one up a bit, you can see the basic shape starting to take form. Now if I get out my eraser tool and have a proper size on this, then I'll erase this one out. Now see, this side's looking a little bit wonky. That's because I didn't actually bring it out to the edge of the circle as I should have. Pay attention to your sketches. There, you made them with the right intentions. So the top of this is going to be the opening of the actual rose itself. Alright, so now we're going to sketch in the petals themselves. Now, the way that the petals will work, at least for this drawing, is they're going to be a series of raindrops, kind of overlapping each other. And since we already have the outline done, all we have to do is connect this corner up here and kind of integrate it in with the circle down at the bottom. And then you kind of repeat the process on the other side. And don't be afraid to give it a little bit of a different list to it. And then, but the next ones going up will actually be higher and higher up, as they're still forming out of the middle of the flower. Since the actual flower itself, the petals are going up this little circle until they come out, since this is the heart of the actual flower itself is what we have drawn in. And then on the top is just going to be a spiral for the sakes of this drawing. But if you want to get more proper with that, then look up references for the rose you want to draw. Of course, there's other ones, the ones that are grown so that they're actually folded out. I'm gonna minimize this. But there's ones that are actually folded out, which The one I showed you was a bit more of a picture shape, but there's, oh, so I don't have a reference for this, so it'll look a little bit weird. But it will end up doing something like this, and then the top will kind of wrap around like that. That's another style of rose you can do. Well, of course, that one looks like it's an egg from an alien movie or something, but you get the idea. So now we have this, and of course, if you want to get a little bit more crazy with it, then you can have little other parts that come out, just to kind of give it a little bit more of an appealing look to it. And you know, I think I'm going to keep these for the sake of this tutorial. I'm going to keep this more extravagant look to it, kind of like the florist somehow pinned two of the petals to stick out as it grew, so it just kind of stuck like that. Yeah, let's see if we can make this work, huh? Have some fun in the middle of a tutorial video, naturally. It's not like I'm trying to show people stuff. Alright, so we have the head of the rose. Now, the stem is the next step. But between the stem and this is this little starburst that pops out just at the base of the petals. When viewed from the top, it's, you know, pretty much just a star. And this is where the flowers actually grow out of, the petals actually grow out of. But each of these little things are kind of a little bit wobbly and a little bit weird looking. They're not straight lines, so you shouldn't draw them as such. So these ones will be going up and back down, and they'll have these weird shapes going to them. It gives a little bit of a different look to the flower. Then down to the stem. The stems that you're used to seeing are straight stems, but proper rose stems are actually bent. They're crooked. So if you draw two lines going straight down, because this should be straight, going straight into the petals, but as you get to a certain point, you know, give it like an inch, 2 inches, something like that, they're going to suddenly change. And the angle can vary as you want. You can have them go in the other direction. You can have them going up here if you want, but that just looks really, really strange. And I keep the little crook in it because I kind of like the looks of the crooked rose. And then, of course, it will snap again. But try to avoid having it snap even further out, because then it starts looping around, and that just looks very, very strange for a flower to do. And of course, you can add in thorns if you want, but this is going to be a gift for a mother, so thorns may not be a very good idea if you're going to be doing that. So there you have the basic rose put down. The next step will be coloring. So I'm going to color it in time lapse, but you can keep in mind that when you color this yourself, you can use any colors that you really choose to. You can make a white rose, a purple rose, a rainbow rose. I don't know. It's your family. So I'm taking some time lapse real quick. I will be right back. And welcome back. So this is where things will get a little bit different between if you're going to be doing this traditionally or digitally. I'm going to be doing this in a digital painterly style, but that's because every year I've done these roses slightly differently, so it still feels like a proper gift. So, and the ones I haven't done yet is a digital painterly style. So that's how I'm going to be continuing this. If you're going to be doing this traditionally, what you'll do instead of these next few steps is you'll actually take the sketch you've done and put lines in here instead, obviously for going little areas like this, and you'll progress it in that way. But if you still want to pick up how to shade it or any other tiny tips like that, then continue watching. Completely up to you. But I thought I'd make that this distinction before I continue the video. So the next step that you do is, after I have my colors blocked in, I'm going to kind of start building up the shades on this thing slowly. Now, you have to treat every single petal slightly differently because, well, they are different petals after all. So by dropping down the opacity on this so I can see pretty much just what I'm doing, I can have a better idea of the actual shape I'm trying to get. Now, of course, the bottom of this thing is going to be pretty much just like a bowl. I'm assuming that the light is coming in from the side over here. But the petals over here are going to be in shadow. But this one that sticks out, that we kind of added in ad hoc, is in a strange position to pick up light. So it's wrapped around like this, so it'll pick up light from this side, but it also goes back a little bit. And so we have to represent that in the shadow, or in the highlights actually, so that this thing will look properly. I want to end this with no lines, so I have to be careful to make sure that all the lines needed are going to be there. So as we go into the highlights on the opposite side, this area here is actually too dark, so I'm going to have to bring this back to the normal shade a little bit first. There we go. And then I will wrap around with a little bit of this shade and have it get a little bit more vague as it goes down. And don't be afraid to get a little bit weird with the shading. I mean, if it's a little bit off, no one's gonna worry too much. They should care more so that you made them a gift instead of, oh, but the shading is wrong. This is terrible. It's like, no, they won't do that. What type of parent would do that? What type of parent would know? Oof. Look, if your mother cares so much that the shading of your rose is proper, then what on earth are you doing on an Anthro tutorial, or Anthro channel tutorial of how to draw roses? This is not a good place to pick up tips on how to draw a rose with that much detail. Let's be brutally honest here, huh? So, pretty much right now I'm still just defining the shape of the petals themselves so that when I take off the lines, you'll still be able to tell where everything is. And I'm getting rid of a lot of the reds in between, but I'm doing that with the intention of blending a lot of this in later so that you won't really be able to see so that those shades will come back out, but you'll lose a lot of the definition here. So I'll obviously have to go back in there. Let's actually blur a little bit of this right now. So this area down here, going up, trying to blur along with the shades so that I can possibly keep some of the definition in the end. And then if I remove this, you can see that without the lines included, you can still kind of get that shape, but I need to go through and fully define everything that you see here just so that it's unmistakable. What it is, what the shapes are, where things stop and other things begin. That's always important. You know, where does my rose stop and where does the flowers begin? Well, obviously the rose is the flower, but you get my point. So this side here will be picking up quite a bit of light because it's going to be very, very direct. And notice how the highlights really shouldn't touch the edge. It just looks very awkward and very flat if you do that. This way it implies a little bit more of a shape and a little bit more of a volume to the actual petals themselves. And I'm bringing these a little bit far down, probably too far down, or farther down they really should be. But I'm doing this with the best of intentions so that you can see the definition of the petals a little bit better. And of course I have to define where this petal starts going to the back and where this petal still keeps on going back down. So this slightly lighter area right here and how it dips in. And of course, keeping in mind this thing, so these petals should be pulling in just a little bit before they list back out to the bottom of the bowl. So you have to keep that in mind when you're doing the shading steps of it. So these things here might be a little bit darker than they would otherwise, and the tops of them would be a little bit brighter because they're looping back around. So this spot here would probably be completely done as is. And then the back here would be picking up quite a bit of light, almost more than the other side, but it might also just be an optical illusion given the fact that it's surrounded by a lot darker spots. and then making this edge again, wherein it probably shouldn't have any light hitting it, but we want to make sure that this is easily seen. In this case, legibility might be a little bit more important than actual accuracy of the petals themselves. And then this top edge will be catching quite a bit of light. This edge a little bit less, because here is going to be the inside of the petals themselves. So if we zoom back out, you see that that's very easily a rose. Now I'm going to make this a little bit more of a smooth transition, because I want a lot of smooth transitions here. I don't quite want a lot of jagged edges, but that's just my personal preference when it comes to this specific drawing of a rose. And it'll be much the same way when it comes down to this, wherein you will have a lighter side, a darker side, and you'll just kind of spend some time building up the darks, blocking in stuff first so that you have something to work with, and then going through adding in the highlights and the light shadows, and pretty much you just draw it at this point. You're just building up the shadows and putting things where you think they would make sense. For the stem, if you don't have any thorns, it'd be dangerously simple to shade in the stem, making sure that none of the lights and none of the darks actually touch the edge, because again, that would make things seem really, really flat. And compared to all the effort you put into the petals themselves, let's not make the leaves themselves super flat either. So once you have the basics down, you blur it all in so that it'll still work, and then you redefine it. Welcome to the art world, where all we do is we just erase stuff and put it right back in again. Why do we erase in the first place? Well, either to make it look better or because we didn't like it. But yeah, this is going to be the rest of the drawing. I am going to finish this up in time lapse. Just right now, you currently see pretty much the end of it. I'm going to be doing this in time lapse so I can pull in the last of the definition and do the shading down here and stuff like that. I'll see you at the end. Be right back. And welcome back. So you may be thinking to yourself, this looks completely different from the one I was working on before. That's because it is. This one's over here, and as you can see, it's well defined and all that jazz. But I had to make a second one because my sister is now a mother as well. And Mother's Day is not strictly for your mother. Keep that one in mind. If you have any family members that you love and respect a lot, maybe you can draw one up for them too. Doesn't take a whole lot of extra time. That or just copy and paste it and just write a different message. Oh yeah, that leads me to the last thing here. Be sure that you actually write a message on it. Instead of just sending them the image, you have the ability to, right now, write on it. Make this into the card. And that would mean a whole lot more. And of course they can look back on it later and see the messages that you've left them in the past. Anyways, I'll actually be writing that down on my own time because this is for my family. If you liked what you've seen here today, tell me, show me down below. I'd love to see or hear what you have to say. If you have any suggestions for any future tutorials, let me know down below as well. I'll, of course, work on those things probably first before anything else. And as always, have a wonderful day. Goodbye.